have those dreams, have those goals, and know that you can contribute and that those are real, that you can make incredible things happen.
Hello, and welcome to Voices for Impact. My name is Danielle Mensing, founder of Voices for Impact, and today I'm chatting with my friend Kristin Duquette. Kristin is a globally recognized disability rights advocate, former world-class athlete, and a political appointee in the Obama administration. She is also the former captain of the U.S. Paralympic swim team for the 2010 Greek Open and a record holder. And fun fact, the Clinton Foundation listed Kristin as one of 12 people who will inspire you to make a difference, along with Supreme Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. So, Kristin, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for reaching out. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, so you've done so many things in your life, and you're only 29 years old. What drives you?
What drives me is I just think that life is so full of different chapters, and there are so many directions that we can each go in. And I always want to follow my curiosity and never have a regret that I didn't try to do something. So I think just being open and following that intuition inside is what's always kept me going.
Take me back to when you were younger. What were, until now, when you decided you wanted to be on the Paralympic swim team and that was something that was your goal? What triggered that for you? Why did you decide that's something you want to do? And then what were the steps you took to get there and then to be a record holder on top of it?
Yeah. So that goes way back. I have a form of muscular dystrophy, or my body has a form of muscular dystrophy. It's genetic. It's called FSHD, facioscapulohumeral dystrophy. Then no one in my family has this condition, and so there's only a few ways that you can get it. Is if it was obviously passed down by a family member in a recessive format, or a mutation, or obviously if it was expressed in a family line. And so with my family, we're fairly certain it was some sort of mutation. I grew up able-bodied for a certain period of time. Able-bodied meaning I had the same sort of physical functions as any other person that's not physically disabled. And I have always had a very strong-willed or determined personality. I wanted to be one of two things when I grew up, when I was younger. So I wanted to be an Olympic swimmer, even though there was a time I hated the water. I was afraid of it, but then I got over that. And then I wanted to be an Olympic swimmer, or a marine biologist. I love the water. And my parents got my older sister and I involved in swimming maybe around when I was like 6. We loved it so much, we just wanted to race. And that was a childhood dream of mine. I started to no longer physically keep up. And so at the time I was doing about maybe 4 different sports. So like gymnastics, we went to sports camps. Obviously I'm super competitive with those kind of things, and type A. And I didn't understand why my body was not keeping up. I remember when I was younger telling myself, like, just run a bit faster. Like, what is the problem? Like, get up from the ground and things like that. And I remember talking to myself like that to my body, like, I don't understand. My 9th birthday was when I was diagnosed. So I definitely struggled. So I quit all sports. I quit. And I stopped for about 6 years or so. I went into a pretty solid depression. Obviously, just on a physical level, if you stop physical activity, that obviously impacts your brain on some sort of level. My body, different parts of it, was starting to get weaker. There were certainly times where I was made fun of growing up because kids can be cruel. I grew up in a very homogeneous atmosphere in suburbia Connecticut, so there really wasn't anyone physically disabled, very white, and that's completely okay, but I just didn't see myself, so I didn't accept that part of myself at all. And when I went to this high school, I learned that 85% of everyone at my high school did a sport. And there were times throughout the years prior that I was the manager of a basketball team, a tennis team, and doing math and stats. And I was like, I want to be a player. I do not want to be on these sidelines. I thought to myself, I want to be on the team. I don't want to be a manager. I want to be an athlete. What sport would I really love to do again, or at least try, like really try? And I thought to myself, I really loved the water. I loved swimming growing up. I have no clue what this body can still do, but mentally, I feel like I remember how to do it. I don't want to try a different sport. I don't want some sort of different device to use. I want to see what my body can really do on its own terms. And I set a goal to re-teach myself how to swim for the whole year. I thought to myself, what do I need to do to prove that I'm good enough to be on this team with people that are not disabled, or the body that I have? So I said, let me swim 600 laps in this small pool. I would ask my mom to leave me at the pool for like 2 to 3 hours or so after school. And I would just swim and I would count, and I would let my imagination run wild as to swimming against like Michael Phelps or Ryan Lochte. In reality, it was like a senior citizen swimming next to me, but I just built it up as like the final countdown, and just had fun. And it was so freeing and grateful and joyous and amazing. And so one day I completed that. I wrote an email to the high school coach. I said everything that I just told you, and I got a response back the day of my sister's junior prom. I remember this very vividly because I printed it off, her response, and I highlighted different sections, and then I put it on our fridge. And it was, I don't know you, but everything you just told me, you have such determination. Of course, you can be on the team as long as you start training for the London 2012 Paralympics. Some of the best swimmers have come out of Connecticut. I cannot wait to get to know you. I think you have so much to bring to the table. And I printed it off. I remember we had a family friend in the kitchen at the time, and I was so ecstatic. I was like, look, and she said, oh my goodness, my friend's son is a Paralympic swimmer. Now he's a coach. I want to connect you to. And it was just like my heart just lit up on fire. And I didn't know what the Paralympics was, but I was ready to go for it. And that's when I slowly started to feel embraced by other people, when I didn't think I was going to be embraced at all because of how different I thought it was.
Like, a lot of that story was like your mindset and your will to prove to yourself and to prove to other people, I can do something. And whatever I'm passionate about swimming, and I'm going to be the best at it. How did you get yourself into that mindset every day?
I think for me, it was just a matter of, I want to be the best version of myself and what I can do. And I was just sick and tired of seeing how things actually were in reality, that I wanted to somehow change that for myself. But I think no matter how hopeless at times I have thought, especially or thought during different phases, I think I've always felt a sense of hope that um, things can change because moments aren't permanent. And a lot of things that we encounter is usually designed by a person. That I've had a lot of conversations with very high achievers, and it's very hard sometimes to get out of a mindset that you think that, okay, well, that's in the past now, so what do I have to do next, or what can I do next, what's next, what's next, what's next. I still have to remind myself, like, I am not working from zero. I forget a lot of stuff that I've done because there's so much more I want to do and want to contribute to. I think what's pretty valuable about mental health also, and just taking a breather, taking a step back, is just really appreciating not just the support systems around us, but who you are as a person and how far you've come.
So fast forward, you're involved with government, you're a disability rights advocate, you're working within the Obama administration. How did you get from a passion of swimming and being involved with that to government?
I majored in my undergrad in human rights. I am also a people person, so I really got into constituent writing with the letters and legislation, and I wanted to somehow push forth what I was actually learning in school to something concrete. I thought, let's try politics. I started to get involved in helping different campaigns. I was the head assistant to a state senator's campaign. Then I interned on the Capitol Hill in the Senate. Honestly, I kept following that curiosity. And I thought that it kept challenging me and kept pushing me forward. And when I was also in the US Senate was when I got really opened up to disability rights with a really great organization in DC called the American Association of Persons with Disabilities. So it really opened up a great network of incredible people. So it was in sport where I grew my confidence and felt like I belonged in that sense with all these incredible athletes. And then when I hit DC in 2013 as an intern, so when I also got to feel like I belonged and started to learn history of disability advocacy and this incredible network of people that just did not stop working for a better future for countless people that we will never know. How I got involved in the administration, I was working up in Boston at the time, and two mentors of mine were invited to the 25th anniversary of the ADA at the Obama White House, and they invited me to go as one of their guests. And at the time, there was a meeting beforehand at the White House with different people inside the administration that do hiring, and they were talking about how Obama wants to continue to hire persons with disabilities to reflect the American public that they serve. And I was sitting in that meeting, and I thought to myself, I remember filling out that administration application back in 2013, so 2 years prior. And I said, I owe it to myself to at least talk to one of them and say, how could I ever work inside an administration in my career? A person said, we could hire you now. I was doing grad work at Harvard at the time, and so they said, as long as you can, do your schoolwork online, we could hire you for an agency and work inside the administration. And I was like, sure. I started to get calls from blocked numbers, and going through the vetting process. And a few months into that, I definitely had more and more communication, and went through the hiring process. And then I was hired for the confidential assistant to the chief of staff for the Endowment for the Arts in November of 2015. Yeah.
So what was it like to work within that agency?
The Endowment for the Arts, it was great. It was, as you know, I picked up the violin when I was younger. It actually was my first job to get paid to play. And music and art is such an incredible outlet, and it was great to serve in that capacity and see an agency that really was just forth a great mission and message. I started to work as an analyst in a different organization a different agency in the government. And I've been there since. I thought I was gonna maybe stay for a year and catch my breath, but I've loved it so much, and I'm being challenged and learning, and I have great opportunities there that now I've stayed there for about 3 years. Yeah.
What advice would you have for women that are our age that have goals for a passion or for a certain career to use their voice in the best way to make those passions happen?
So what I would say is something that I try to practice if I feel really bogged down, is if I lived in an ideal world with full resources, no chance of failure, how would I want this designed? And just let my brain go and map out whatever it is. And then think about, okay, what actual resources do I have right now that can somehow, even in the most minute level, match up in that way? Is it social media? Is it, I may not have access to X person, but do I have access to that kind of field at this point? You really just have to think about your source as to where are you working out of? Are you working out of a sense of passion and optimism, or is it anger and frustration? Because I've certainly learned that anger and frustration is only going to take you so far, and it's going to eat you up inside. And to know that all of that will take time. This takes years. This does not happen overnight. None of this does. And also just focusing on, what do I actually value as a person? Like, do I value honesty? What kind of character do I want to value, regardless of all the externals that I'm going to have to come across, good and bad? Have those dreams, have those goals, and know that you can contribute, and that those are real, that you can make incredible things happen. It goes back to my undergrad studies as a human rights major. We're all human beings. No human being is actually less than a human being than another human being. What actually has always been the problem is how we perceive different humans in a social context. Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings. We can work with each other. We really can. And I think that's the number one thing that keeps giving me hope, is if discrimination was designed by something non-human, I think it would be another issue to come across. Maybe this is probably more philosophical, but what gives me hope is just the fact that, like, I'm also a human being too. So at some level, I can also push forth a more equitable world in some sort of way. It's not going to change everything overnight. It's not going to change in my lifetime, but hopefully my efforts will somehow help in that way.
What do you want people to remember about Kristin Duquette? What's your ultimate goal you're striving for? You've done so many amazing things.
Hopefully my life is an example to people on how multidimensional a human can really be. That there's no complete one chapter, one side for you. And I think going back to being multidimensional, just being human, making mistakes, messing up, trying to keep going, and pushing forth a world that can be so much better than what we have. But what we have is so much better than it was yesterday in a lot of different ways and decades ago. I recently had someone ask me a question as to what decade would I love to relive. And of course, I would say the 90s because of music and NSYNC, but an actual answer would not necessarily be the past, because if you think from like a woman's rights perspective or a disability rights perspective, no, absolutely not. Probably be the future, or especially with technology. But we're always going to be human, and I hope that the outlets that I use, I do in a most genuine way to showcase that. I hope to still be in public service. I think life is way too big to play in small, so that's why I just try to keep an open mind and stay passionate and curious. I never want to think of one job that I want, because I don't want it to diminish the journey of growth that I'll always be on. I don't think it's a one end goal like I used to think when I trained for 2012. I don't think so. I actually don't believe so. I know that. I know that for myself. So as long as it's continuing to connect with other people, and staying open, and life can be pretty incredible. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kristin.
Really
I think we'll end it there, because I think that just encapsulates everything that you were saying throughout this whole conversation. And it's a really boom, like impactful moment. So thank you so much for giving us some insight and some advice and to what you've done, and hopefully this will be helpful for those listening. And thank you so much to our viewers who are watching. Voices for Impact is on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So please follow us and like us to stay connected. And I'll see you next time on Voices for Impact. Thank you so much, Kristin, for taking the time to talk with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you.